Hey everybody, Miranda here, and I'm so excited to have the amazing Colleen King, a specialist in mood disorders and bipolar disorder in particular in Sacramento, California, talking today about her private practice journey and how it has and has not been affected by COVID and the current pandemic, and just having real talk about what's happening out in the world. So Colleen, will you share with everybody your web address and your kind of specialty marketing message that I'm sure I just butchered as I introduced you?
No, you did pretty good. So yes, I am here in Sacramento, California, and I specialize in helping people living with anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, and the impacts of living with those mood disorders. So things like relationships, sense of identity and self-worth, learning how to communicate and get a wellness plan so you can, get back to living your life while you're managing symptoms. So that's something I'm really passionate about. My web address is insightcounselingsacramento.com. It's a long URL, but
that's okay. There are worse things in the world. It works.
Yeah.
Well, Kelly and I always say you don't have to have a good domain name to be successful, aka Zinny-me. It's not what we recommend to other people, but it works for us. It's all okay. So what did your private practice look like before the pandemic? What was the day-to-day looking like for you?
Well, I was in my office, so that has changed. So I have a private office, and I see people on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays, and 2 Mondays a month. So I had a pretty set schedule of clients, hours and days. And I designed it so I have like 3 kind of solid days of clients with breaks in between. And then I needed just a little bit more time, but instead of lengthening my days, I added 2 Mondays a month. And that's been working out really well. So it leaves me time for the old work-life balance, which is so key for me and everybody.
Awesome. And before the pandemic struck, how much time were you spending on average per week marketing your practice?
Truthfully, not a lot.
Okay.
Because I had spent so much time the first 2 years of my practice, and I'm in my 6th year, that I was able to really ease off and just kept up like networking with people in the area, therapists and non-therapists, and intermittent social media posting. And I think that all the work I spent online the first 2 years really helped build a solid foundation to help me.
It's so interesting too. I can think of some conversations that we had where you were like, well, I'm not blogging every week. Am I doing something wrong? We're like, are you on this page of Google? Yeah. Are you getting enough calls? Yeah. Like, what are your reviews? They're good. Okay. So that it doesn't do much to keep the ball rolling as it does to like get it started.
Exactly.
So that's great. So, and you would found that balance point of, okay, things are good. Practice is full. I'm getting enough clients in. And I know what that sweet spot is to do the right amount of marketing for me and my practice. Yeah?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And then how does your practice look? Well, actually, before I ask that, how many clients on average were you seeing per week before everything kind of kicked off?
Usually between 15 to 18. You know, it would vary. I have some every other week, or some people I saw weekly that would want to come back for a few sessions and kind of drop in. And
Okay, awesome. And what does your practice look like today?
the same. Yeah.
Yeah.
Last week I had 17 and this week I have 15 scheduled. So
Yeah. Tell me about what that first week of transition was like in terms of moving from doing in person to the shifts to move to telehealth.
it was a lot of scrambling and a lot of extra work. Um, I actually went online the week before the formal shutdown, because, you know, we were seeing that coming. So I read your blog, you and Kelly wrote that blog that had so much information and all those links. And there were just a lot of great articles and information out there for therapists. Like, everybody really just rallied around the community and put out all this information about how to keep therapists up and running and helping people. So I was reading, you know, so many articles and checking out all this tech support, and recognized my usual pattern of like, okay, I'm going to do everything, and then getting overwhelmed, and then going, okay, time out. Like, let's pick and choose. What do I need to do here? Like, I need more information, like legally and ethically, on providing telehealth services. So I did an online CEU class. I found out more information. I wrote an informed consent for telehealth because I didn't do any telehealth before. I had my electronic health record system in place, which made it so much easier, because then I was able to upload the informed consent on the telehealth, send out an email to all my clients, letting them know I was moving to telehealth, send the informed consent through the client portal, sign up for the telehealth option through my EHR. So I worked like through the weekend, like, you know, I worked a lot of extra hours at the beginning to get everything up and running, and made a lot of phone calls to clients and talking with colleagues and rearranging the house to find a private, you know, comfortable space. And then I was good.
Right? Were there, it sounds like there are some things that were in place in your business already foundationally that really supported you in that transition. And it sounds like having your EHR, your electronic health record, was really helpful in navigating that transition. And it sounds also like you knowing who you were and having a process for, how do I get out of overwhelm? Like, sometimes we kind of like gloss over that piece of knowing who we are as a business person, who we are as a human, and how we bring that into business, and taking those old strategies that you used back in the day as you're building and making change, and going, okay, this is how I know I've been in the past. What did I do before? Oh, let's break it down. Let's get into smaller pieces. Let me connect in with my community. Let me connect in with support and get what I need. And what has it been like actually providing telehealth to your clients? How are you liking it thus far?
There's some benefits and some challenges so far. The benefits obviously are that, like, my clients and I are still connected, and there was seamless connection. Like we didn't miss a week. We got, we just kind of kept going. And it was an adjustment for both me and my clients, and still is, in that it's attending to people like in emotionally, physically, intuitively, in the office container just feels different on telehealth.
Yeah.
And so I'm finding it takes more energy, and I think that's something I'm working on too. It's a new kind of like that process of overwhelm and finding the balance of learning to attend to people and be present with them and their needs in a way that is what they need, but also not that is draining me till I'm so empty I'm bone dry.
Yes. There's this great article, and I apologize that I can't think of who exactly, but I know Kelly posted it on her Facebook page talking about the dissonance.
Yes.
Right? You read that too. It's the dissonance of here we are, we're connected, but like we're not, but we are, but we're not.
Yeah.
Like we really want this energy. This is how we've built our lives. And so learning how to kind of manage and go through that process is it's quite the dynamic. It's quite that space. And I think one of the nice pieces that I see for you is because your business foundation was so solid, because you had such a clinical confidence and these great relationships with ideal clients who were really committed to the work, that allowed you to make that transition easily. And then you can focus on what does this mean for telehealth versus being in this space where you're worried about getting clients, or you're worried about people not wanting to move to telehealth with you, and you're kind of in this panic mode in these other ways. And then you have even less space to actually attend to the clinical implications of this transition. It gives you room. Yes. Oh, my goodness gracious. So what is something that when you first started your private practice that you sort of maybe even resisted a little bit in terms of setting your business foundation, that now, especially with this transition, you've said, oh, I'm so glad blank was in place for this transition, even though there's a part of me that kind of resisted it at the beginning? Like, were there any foundational business things that initially you thought, I don't know if I really need that, and now you're like, oh, I'm so glad I have that?
A whole lot.
Tell me more.
It's not that I didn't think I needed, it's just that I didn't want to learn like the technology aspect, like building a website, social media, just mostly the technology aspects of it, because I'm more of an artist, right brain kind of person. So like if you asked me before I opened a business if I was gonna, build a website, I would have laughed, because and I still struggle, and so I've just learned to pick and choose. Like I knew I needed a website, and at the time I didn't have the money to pay somebody to build me a good website. So I resisted that, and learning all of the social media tools and blogging, doing video like Facebook Live. I did a couple of those last week on my page, which was really good. It's still like a challenge, but I'm just doing it. I've learned that skill of, which is something I have learned in business, of recognizing what is typical nervousness and anxiety in doing something new, and and differentiating that from, like generalized anxiety or clinical anxiety, excessive worry, and dealing with it. So, I mean, along with all of that was a lot of frustration and time and learning technology, but with the website and blogging, social media, so the marketing piece, and then the EHR, because I started out with paper records, and then transferring all of that to EHR was a challenge, but oh my gosh, it's so much easier. I hear colleagues, frustrated with, not being able to get, especially right now, paid by their clients, or, figuring out how to send them resources. And so having the EHR so we can send it through their client portal, it just streamlines everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And you are one of our kind of OG boot campers.
Yeah.
Right? You were part of that group of people kind of going through the process. How much of the business foundation do you feel like came from what you learned in boot camp?
95%.
That's awesome. I like to hear that.
Yeah, because I didn't have my own business before, so as a lot of private practice therapists believe, you get on and you rent an office, you get on insurance panels, and you're doing therapy. I mean, we want to do therapy. We want to work with people, and that's what we focus on.
Yeah.
So I didn't have the business foundation. Certainly what I've learned from business school boot camp around finances and boundaries and learning to have conversations with clients around finances.
Yes, it's good to talk about money. It's good for us.
Yes.
It's good for our clients. They need
Yeah.
those skills.
Yes. I mean, I needed the skills.
Yes. Because your therapist didn't give you the skills, right? Like your parents did. No one's talking about it. So we've got to change the dynamic.
Yes. Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love it. What advice would you have for someone that's out there who's feeling really fearful right now in private practice? Maybe they're newer to private practice. Maybe their foundation isn't as set, and they're thinking that, oh my gosh, this is going to be the end of everything, and private practice is going to die. What advice would you have for that person who's really panicking right now?
I think the first thing I would encourage them to do is get centered or grounded, for them, to take care of them and get out of catastrophe mode, even though a pandemic, kind of feels like a catastrophic thought come true. But especially around the business or the private practice, to do a self-soothing kind of exercise and then connect to their sense of purpose, why they want to be a therapist, what's important to them, why they want to connect with clients and support them. To kind of get grounded and then prioritize and say, okay, what's one thing I can do? And just focus on one thing at a time. There's so much information and overstimulation and lots to be scared at.
Yeah.
Right? There's so much fear everywhere.
Yeah.
So it's easy for that to pour into business. So,
and what would you say to someone who is feeling maybe like you felt? They say, I'm not a technology person. I'm not a business person. I'm not 25, just coming out of grad school, right? Some people hearing this over podcasts, they have no idea like how old you are or anything like that. What would you say to those people who are going like, can I really do this? Can I really do private practice? Can I really, whether it's growing it, whether it's launching it, like, can I really do this with my tech skill, with my whatever mental blocks they have?
Yes. Because being a therapist is a second career for me. So I graduated when I was 41, and then I started my private practice when I was 50. So, and I didn't have any technology background, as I said. So just start out doing what you can and build on it. There's, I don't know if there's like a quick fix, but I think especially in this environment with a pandemic and fear and anxiety, that's often the way people want to go is fast, because they're, you know, amped up in that anxiety. Focus on, you know, there's so many resources. You and Kelly are awesome. There's so many resources to find ways to move forward in a manner that feels congruent to what you need and the people you want to serve.
I think that's such an interesting piece too, that you mentioned that this anxiety drives us to feel like we have to do everything right now and really fast.
Yes.
And that anxiety also makes us feel like we can't make a decision and that we can't like move forward, and that we feel exhausted at the same time. So it's this very kind of like ambivalent feeling. It's this very like exhausting kind of space to be in.
Unsettled,
and,
like
yeah,
moving, you know.
Yeah. And that advice that you gave, just first start with like, get grounded.
Yeah.
Who are you? Where are you? What do you want? What, if your purpose and passion and what you were put on this planet to do is therapy, like there's a path. You can do that. It doesn't, there's not, you haven't missed your chance. There's not, people are definitely not needing therapy right now. You know, people are needing therapy now more than ever. And they need the support. And you are someone, do you do insurance or private pay? I think I know the answer.
I am mostly private pay. I have about third to a fourth of my clients are Medi-Cal. So it was the way I found balance. Because as I originally got into this to serve low-income populations. And so that was part of the learning about myself and my financial story. And so I found a balance and a way to do private pay so I can support myself and make a living, as well as provide support to people that are lower income and on Medi-Cal and need mental health therapy just as much as everybody else. So that's currently how my practice is run.
Awesome. And did you find with either of those areas your income impacted? Because a lot of people are thinking there's not going to be any private pay clients because the economy's tanked and no one and everything, you know, they're kind of in that space. Have you found that to be the piece that all of your clients are saying, I can't pay, we're dead in the water?
No. I was wondering about that too. And so far that hasn't been the case. I did lose a couple of clients that for their specific situation, they didn't want to move to telehealth. But I also have 2 new clients. And I have a lot of, well, not a lot, but about the same number of people calling. Some, you know, some insurance folks and some private pay folks. So far, it hasn't had a big business impact. And that may change.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Or it may not, right?
Or it may not. I don't know.
We kind of prepare and make sure that our finances are solid and that we have a savings for slow times. And that's part of what we do when we create a good business plan, so that we don't have to feel like absolute panic, right? If things are a little low 1 week or what have you.
Right.
And what we're finding pretty consistently across the US as we're talking to people is there's kind of that like first week of like, everyone's kind of panicked and there's something happening and some people are dipping off and some people were thinking, well, maybe telehealth maybe we'll just be back in 2 weeks and then we can meet in person. And then once you get past those first couple of weeks and people are like, okay, no, here it is, and things start to settle out. And so people's caseloads are not dropping dramatically. In fact, so the old people are calling back and saying, hey, I think I need some therapy right now. Can I get back on? And new people are saying, I've got time and I need stuff right here, right now. Awesome.
Yes.
So before we wrap up today, obviously we have our business school boot camp for therapists. We do happen to be open right now. We're closing soon. What advice would you give to someone trying to determine whether to enroll in boot camp? I know that's like a really random thing, but I know a lot of maybe advice for someone who is like you going, I don't know. This is my second career. I'm feeling tech challenged. I don't know if I can do all this myself. Like, should I just pay someone else to build me a website and that will be the way I build my practice? Or do I do boot camp? Like, what do I do? What advice would you have for them?
To do boot camp.
There's no right answer. Like
I know, but the part about, yes, you give the step-by-step guide with the videos and the, live calls and all the modules, but it's also the community. And there's so much sourcing of information from the community and so much support, so that when that technology challenge comes up and you want to scream into the void, you can go do that on the Zenny Me page and people will send hugs and information. So, and also because it's more than just building a website, it's that breadth of knowledge around finances and boundaries and setting, boundaries around like my time, which has been one of the most beneficial things, is really getting set on my hours and days I see people and all of the boundaries with my business. And every aspect of owning a business has really been helpful. And I think that another big part of it is I've learned so much about myself and struggling through a lot of the BSB modules. It's been like one of the biggest therapeutic journeys for me, in having my own business and coming up against my own obstacles and figuring out what those obstacles are really about. So you give the touchy-feely part of it that therapists like, along with all the nuts and bolts, basic, this is how you do it, step 1, 2, 3. And the community, which, has been really helpful.
That's awesome. Well, I just want to thank you again for taking time out to come and share your journey with people. And I know this is going to inspire a lot of people and help them get grounded, help them get out of that fear and panic mode completely, feel the feelings, but also like kind of readjust and come back to ourselves in the moment of what we can move forward on and what we can't. And if you know people that want some support and kind of how their moods and how their depression or anxiety or bipolar impact life, and relationships, check out insightcounselingsacramento.com.
Yeah.
Yes.